Good evening. Time is now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. If you would please stand and join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with town charter requirements, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 at 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 28, 2024 in the Plainfield Town Auditorium, 8 Community Avenue, Plainfield, Connecticut, 06374. All electors of the town and eligible property owners who wish to be heard will be allowed to do so at the hearing. Before we get started with your participation, I would just like to comment and say thank you all for coming out tonight. I appreciate the interest that you've shown, not only tonight, but through the whole process. The process, and I've said this from the very beginning, this is a budget process, began back in January. And from that time, a lot of adjustments have been made in order to accommodate the needs of the town people as a whole. Some of the decisions that we've had to make have been very, very difficult. So I hope you keep that in mind as we listen to what you have to say tonight. I would like to, at this time, to welcome the superintendent to make a few opening comments if you wish to speak.
Before I speak, I would just like to put a plug in for Plainfield's 5th annual food drive, Saturday, June 1st. These flyers are all over the auditorium. Outstanding things for our community. Take off my glasses for a second here. My job in Plainfield is to make students successful. Largely my job here is to put adults in a position where they can make students successful. Our schools have had some pretty outstanding achievements over the last few years. If you weren't aware, I'd like to start by talking about our schools of distinction. You may be sitting here not knowing that the state of Connecticut awarded 2 elementary schools in eastern Connecticut as schools of distinction. Those schools are in Plainfield. Those are Shepherd Hill Elementary and Plainfield Memorial School for outstanding performance on their standardized tests. We have positive things happening everywhere. You may not know that our graduation rate is up over 94% at Plainfield High School. We have the largest freshman class coming in next year at Plainfield High School that we've had in many years. And we're sending less students out to other schools. Our high school has some outstanding programs. We have students winning national computer science programming competitions. In fact, we're one of the few schools in the state where every student who takes the advanced placement in computer science passed. I should mention that our high school computer science teacher is one of the national computer science teachers of the year. Our state championships have been won in the high school recently, individually in student gymnastics. If you didn't know that, you have a gymnastics state champion here in the town of Plainfield. And you may not realize this, but you also have the esports state championship here in the town of Plainfield. Our art students are winning multiple competitions, multiple years in a row for art celebrating our veterans. This is the 2nd year that Plainfield Central Middle School students have done amazingly on the Capitol Hill Challenge. In fact, Plainfield Central Middle School has done so well on the Capitol Hill Challenge that they are top 10 in the nation this year. And Mr. Russo and a few other individuals that are sitting back there have gotten a free trip to Washington, D.C., paid for our students to go to Capitol Hill and learn more things because of the outstanding work done at Plainfield Central Middle School. Plainfield High School created the regional debate tournament. We have an award-winning music and theater department, and if you didn't know, they sang at Carnegie Hall this year, and last year, and the year before. There are amazing things happening at Plainfield Public Schools, and I'm incredibly proud to be your superintendent and to work in this community. It's my job to deliver a fiscally responsible budget. I'm proud of the work that our team did planning for the ESSER cliff. If you look at other things happening in other towns, they're talking about going into this year with $1 million deficits left over from our ESSER. We didn't do that. We planned ahead. We eliminated ESSER-related positions over the last 3 years to be fiscally responsible to ensure that we were bringing in a fiscally responsible budget. We reduced those positions before we were ever asked. We conducted a facilities study to look at our space, to be responsible in the use of our space. And the Board of Education to my left made the determination to consolidate space, to move the pre-K program back to Shepherd Hill, and to seek alternative locations for our central office. If you look at the cost summary document that's available to you in the public, it looks like this and is at the back table. I'd like to point out a couple things. First and foremost, I'd like to point out that the largest thing driving the Plainfield Public Schools budget is special education. 737,000 of our 850,000 increase can be connected to special education. Approximately 313,000 of that's non-certified staff, which I've explained before this board already, speaking about the increase in minimum wage and also what outstanding paraprofessionals we have, and the need to keep those individuals working with our students, our neediest students. I can speak to the fact that 261,000 of our increase is related to special education tuition outplacements. I would remind the public that one student cost us over $200,000 in special education outplacements. We're fortunate this year that a lot of that tuition is being offset by regular education tuition because, and I'll say it again, more students are choosing to come to Plainfield High School and Plainfield schools. If you look at the remainder of our budget, you'll see the other largest increases are health insurance, which is pressing every community, and transportation, which I've spoken of many times here. The current budget has made cuts to positions in every single bargaining unit to account for these increases. We've cut teachers, we've cut nurses, we've cut secretaries, we've cut paraprofessionals, we've cut custodians. These aren't cuts in proposed positions. These are cuts in real positions that existed last year to bring you the budget that we have today. We have an outstanding staff here at Plainfield. One evidence of how much our staff cares is how many of them are here today to tell you that they care, to tell you that they want better things for the students in the town of Plainfield. We have a staff that cares. We have a staff that gives their time, their love, and their dedication to the students in Plainfield. On the Plainfield symbol, it says, engage, empower, inspire. That's what they do for our kids. They do that and more. So I'm here today with the Board of Education to ask the Board of Finance to not make additional cuts to this budget, to move it forward to the voters so that we're able to give our students the things that they need. And I appreciate your time, and I'd like to hand things over to Mr. Cunningham. Making one more pitch for Plainfield's 5th annual food drive. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. It's a great turnout tonight. I want to be able to present the town budget. What you have in the back of the room should be some sheets that talk about the budget itself. We're here to answer any of your questions on any line item that there is in the town budget. By the way, that goes for any day of the year. If you wanted to have a question or a time with me and come in and talk and say, Kevin, what does this line item mean? Where was it actually being, where's the application for it? Anytime you want, you can call, you can come in, and we can talk about it. The budget you have presented in front of you represents today a 0.11 increase. And I'm going to ask if the Board of Finance, they have a meeting right after this, because they're going to listen to you. They're going to listen to what you have to say. They're going to make adjustments or leave it as is. So I would like to see it left as is, except for one item. I'm going to present to the chairperson a piece of paper, and I will share that with the rest of the Board of Finance soon. This is a request. Now, I've already spoken to the Chief of Police, and thank you very much for this. In here, you'll notice in his budget, he has $17,000 for HVAC upgrades to his building. We have thought long and hard about what we can do to reduce your mill rate even further. So if taking out that $17,000 by putting it into the fund balance to have it still occur would be something that would help. If the Board of Finance later voted to do that, it would bring it down to a 20.88. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I would be interested in listening to what the public has to say about tonight's budget, and thank you very much.
This time I will open the floor up. There are a couple of things that I would like to remind you. You are a town resident, please let us know your name and where you live. If you are a town employee, we would appreciate it if you would let us know what department you work for. I do not know how many people wish to speak tonight, so let's be mindful of the time. And if you have something that you would like to share at this particular time, I will open up the podium.
Good evening. There we go. Good evening. My name is Chris Rousseau, and I've been a resident of Plainfield for the past 9 years, along with my wife and young son. I apologize if some of you have heard this. I made similar remarks at the last Board of Finance Public Forum meeting, but wanted to elaborate more on my previous remarks for those board members who were not present last time, and for residents hearing this for the first time. I've been a social studies teacher at Plainfield Central Middle School for the past 6 years. I've taught at PHS, I've worked at the district level, and prior to that, I worked at NFA. As a social studies teacher, I feel I should disclose my biases as I advocate for the Board of Education budget, and would like the Board of Finance to make a motion to change the budget back to the amount it was on the original ballot on Monday, 20 May 2024. Regarding my biases, first, I am the Public Relations Chairman for the Plainfield Teacher Union, but my views do not represent the PEAs or the Board of Eds, but many in both parties do agree with my sentiment, as shown by the sea of red and orange in the back. Second, I'm also a member of the Plainfield VFW and was a combat medic, a corpsman, attached to the Marine Corps Infantry in both Iraq and both war zones, and that I'll bring this up again for a pertinent reason related to the budget. Finally, for the past 18 years, I've been a registered Republican, and I'm all for responsible use of taxpayer funds in the town and at the state and federal level. This may not seem pertinent, but there are those in our town that believe that all union members are liberal Democrats and instantly dismiss teachers. So with all this in mind, I want to give some reasons why the Board of Ed's budget should be passed and actually increased to the 20 May 2024 numbers. As a combat veteran attached to the Marines, I can honestly say that I've been more stressed in this profession the past few years than patrolling for 6 hours, getting shot at, or blown up over in the desert. Additionally, the pay is actually better now to be in actual combat than to be in the classroom, at least in Plainfield. I am very happy to be a teacher, but I and all the other Plainfield teachers are getting burned out. I've seen a radical change in the teaching environment, especially in the past few years, as far as lack of public support, stalled pay, staffing shortages, issues with the student population as an increase in negative and destructive behavior, and a significant decrease in effort in school. Some of these negative changes are directly related to losing funds for needed support in our schools and classrooms. Educators are doing more with less, and it's burning out even the best teachers at an alarming rate. Schools are short of supplies, funding for needed technology and curriculum resources, and especially staff for special education students. Without these supplies and resources, Plainfield students may not get the best education that we as a town can provide. Connecticut, among other states, has lagged far behind in the pay of teachers and staff for many years, especially here in the quiet corner. Even though us teachers, who are professional educators, have 2 or more degrees, including a master's degree, we are paid significantly less than most professionals with master's degrees in our nation. Over the past 3 years, ZipRecruiter has ranked Connecticut 38 in average starting teacher salaries. It's no wonder we are losing teachers to other states. Teachers can cross the state line and earn much more while also collecting Social Security benefits. And finally, teachers are leaving the profession for other jobs with more pay, better working conditions, and respect. In the past 3 years, we've had 99 teachers, or 55% turnover, leave the district for better pay or for a different profession entirely. 40 teachers have left this past year, and more will be leaving at the end of the school year. I know some of those teachers very well, and they are amazing educators that we are forcing to leave our district for better pay elsewhere. A 2023 CEA survey of teachers found that nearly 3/4 are planning to leave the profession or retire early. With all that being said, as a resident, I don't want taxes to increase like everyone else here, but I see how gutted and despondent our education system is becoming, and I want to ensure that my son and all of our children have a great school system to attend. However, as a teacher peer told me recently, we are flying a plane with limited fuel and equipment, and our pilots are tired, but we are still flying nonetheless. It's only a matter of time until we can't hold it up any longer, and the children and future of Plainfield will suffer. We currently have 55 teachers in our district that are residents, and it'd be a shame if we force resident teachers to leave and find employment in other towns because of a lack of will of the people of Plainfield to pay them a competitive wage. The town has asked the Board of Ed at previous meetings to cut. $780,000 has already been cut from the Board of Education prior to today's current budget documents, which included staff cuts and closing the ECC building to do what the town asked. The Board of Finance is now asking for an additional $170,000, and I also imagine, based off of past Board of Finance meetings, the Board of Ed will be asked to make cuts for the full $200,000. You're asking for the Board of Ed to squeeze blood from a stone now. Finally, I'm disappointed in the town of Plainfield, both as a resident and as a social studies teacher. One of the Board of Finance members said that they are representing the will of the people when he recommended that the burden of cuts belongs to the Board of Education. While I believe in the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, that member was not fully correct. The view that the town budget should not be passed was based on about 2.9% of the Plainfield residents, as only about 5% of the entire town of 10,000 people voted on Monday the 20th. While President and Founding Father John Adams warned about the tyranny of the majority, Plainfield has town items being passed or failed by a minority of our population. While I'm disappointed in how many votes last time, I believe that residents need to hear about this town meeting vote on June 3rd and have a say in our town's finances. I'd recommend that the Board of Finance put out a motion for the town to vote on the budget as it was proposed as of 20 May 2024 and have the people vote again. I've heard from voters that some voted no for the Board of Education budget because they thought it was too low and actually wanted a higher for the Board of Ed. To clear confusion, our charter should also be changed to reflect a simple ballot question added to the no side of each budget vote that they thought it was too low or too high. I believe that there will be greater than 5% of our residents voting in the June 3rd town meeting, as long as we allow any resident who wants to submit their vote to come. If that is the case, I would recommend a larger space in this town hall, such as the auditorium of the Plainfield High School, as well as a longer time frame allowed to allow a greater amount of our residents to vote. If a larger space is not available, then keeping the polls open longer would be the prudent thing to do for democracy's sake. In conclusion, I believe that many residents will be willing to pay a 0.53 mill rate increase, hopefully now less with the police cut, but we shouldn't have to do that, to keep the best teachers that Plainfield can afford on our staff. I know that taxes increased last year due to the assessment that is done every 5 years, but there was no actual town increase last year. This current increase is needed for the general good of the town. Labor and the cost of goods and services are not a $0 increase. It's roughly 3.5% for March, and the residents need to keep this in mind. If they want value and growth in our town and good education for our youth, the future of the town, a price must be paid. To paraphrase President Teddy Roosevelt, nothing worth having in this life comes free or easy. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, my name is Heather Smith. I am a Board of Ed member, but I'm here today speaking as a parent. I'm also a resident, and I have 2 children in Plainfield schools. I am going to read a list of all of the cuts that have been made to the education budget since the initial budget was presented. But before I start, it should be noted that while the town has revenue items built into their budget to offset their nearly 4% spending increase, the BOE does not have that option. For the record, I have no desire to see the town budget fail, but I feel it is a huge mistake to sell the cellular tower. If we are so concerned with creating revenue, then we should not be letting go of a tower that we could be leasing to additional companies. I know that is not the point of this meeting specifically, but it bears being said. My understanding is that we are currently receiving $35,000 yearly for the one lease, and that figure would soon go up. we were to sell this tower, the new owners would immediately do just that and create a steady flow of revenue. So why are we not doing the same thing? But I digress. I'm here to speak about education. The increases we see to the education budget are primarily from, as our superintendent said, transportation, cost increases regarding special education salaries, minimum wage requirements, things that are not negotiable. When the town asks the Board of Education to make further cuts, we are left with no choice but to cut back from the things we can control. These are items like the programs that attract students and keep them in our town, instead of going to tech or magnet schools out of district, often forcing us to spend additional money to pay tuition to another town, or losing higher skilled and experienced teachers to other districts who will offer them a great deal more salary, or services that the BOE and school administrators receive constant complaints from parents that are lacking for their children. After the last special meeting of the BOE, when an additional $170,000 in cuts were made, the mill rate increase for this year would effectively come out to 0.1. On a $200,000 property in Plainfield, this would amount to exactly $22 per year. Even if your house were worth $500,000, that would still only be an increase of $55 a year. If you own a house that is worth that much, I would bet that the shoes on your feet cost more than that increase. So think about that when you think about this list of cuts that has been made over the last 2 months. Some of them were empty positions, yes, but some of them were actual people losing actual jobs, and all of our students are now worse off because of these cuts by the loss of either actual or potential resources for them. One licensed nurse practitioner, one secretary, one head custodian, one second shift custodian, one elementary school teacher, 2 Sacred Heart interns, one New England Science and Sailing Partnership with AmeriCorps, one new counselor, another elementary teacher, 2 additional interns. Excuse me, I take that back. It's the same interns that rotate. An additional elementary school teacher at PMS. At the high school, a business teacher, a music teacher, a phys ed teacher, an entire CNA program eliminated, an entire new textbook program eliminated, student support specialists eliminated, pupil services eliminated, 2 full-time paraprofessionals, 1 part-time occupational therapist, and a reduction in library support paraprofessionals. Not to mention facilities managers for the district. I am asking Board of Finance, please do not add more to the list.
Hello everyone, my name is Samantha Darenthal. I'm coming to you as a resident, but I'm also a new member of the Board of Education. I'm going to spoil the end of this monologue for you by saying I'm voting yes next week for all the budgets, but not because I think they are what our town needs, but because we are being forced to accept better than nothing breadcrumbs over a full sustaining meal. I am concerned that if we don't vote yes on these budgets, then we will be told to, that we've been told to accept. I will have to sit at the table with my other Board of Education members next month and debate whether or not a paraprofessional's job is more important than a program that serves our that that helps our underserved children, or support for long-serving pensioners who are looking forward to a well-deserved retirement. I am sure you'll hear about these things from other people, as we already have, so let me tell you what hats I wear when I'm speaking to you. I wear the hat of being the newest member of the Board of Education of Plainfield. I joined at arguably the worst time, which is, as a new board member, which is right at the end of budget season. A member of the DTC, where I watch members of our community attempt to balance their want to actively contribute to maintaining and growing Plainfield's success with their own commitments to their families, friends, and jobs. But the most prominent hat I would like to wear for you today is a working mother who recently bought a house in Noosa and who is excited to make and call this town home. You may wonder why this matters and why you should listen to someone who just moved here. Over the past few months, being new to town, slightly friendly, and wanting to ingrain myself into the community, I have asked those who I've met an important question. What am I going to love about Plainfield? As I'm washing my comforters in a large machines at Bubbles Laundry Spa, a woman I asked this question to said she loved that as a single mom, she could come to Plainfield and move her kids here and they would be safe, and she would be in close proximity to job opportunities. A worker at the same laundromat beamed with pride as she showed me the original layout of the laundromat's building and the extension and upgrades that were added on to make it one of the top choices for Plainfield residents. I sat down with people who told me that they grew up with their neighbors, the relationships had evolved to include changing family sizes, careers, political affiliations, genders, and health statuses. One gentleman I met at Walgreens told me that I would love the sense of community and how families live here for generations because they love it so much. These weren't aha moments for me though, because you see, my mom moved here 14 years ago when she met my stepfather. I was working near Boston for the first 7 years of my son's life because, so I lived off the commuter rail. When I went to working remotely 99% of the time, I was looking for a place that I could benefit from all the answers that they gave, or all that I listed for you. I've known and appreciated for years that Plainfield is a place where my family will be safe, supported, and accepted for who we are. However, being in HR, I realized that the culture that I described doesn't just magically happen because Plainfield happens to be located next to jobs, because visitors and residents don't commit crime, or residents or future residents just happen to have money to expand, update, and start a business. Families don't make their kids and grandkids stay here year after year, and residents aren't always accepting of differences. My education and career has been built around creating and sustaining strong cultures within organizations. Plainfield's culture is impacted by actions of individual people, like whether we say hello in the supermarket, the influence of collective action groups who live and work here, and it's also really important to think about the systems that contribute to the culture of Plainfield, which is what we are discussing tonight. Are the systems in our town set up to look at bright spots and lessons from the past in a way that sustains our present and prepares us for our future? In order for the single mom that I spoke to feel that her kids were safe in this town, the budgets of the past have supported our police department to keep up with the in-person and virtual harm that impacts our community now. Local businesses have flourished because of individuals who put their hearts, skills, and finances into them, and our residents who shop there. Plainfield's education system, much as we just heard about our business teacher and our CNA program that we cut from our budget, those were prepared, those were systems and community building measures and efforts put in place, sometimes questionable by the Economic Development Agency. In order to create a sense of acceptance for differences, we need budgets that create opportunity for human-to-human connection and education around differences and acceptance. Through getting to know human beings behind the label without learning about differences, I may have been more, sorry, I'm going to start that over. Through getting to know the human behind the label within our systems, I may have been more to the Plainfield resident who told me that I was an abomination to human race via Facebook Messenger, rather than just being queer to him. He would have learned that I love ice cream with chocolate sprinkles from Hanks. I learned last week at the Music Lady that I'm less than stellar at pool, and I have a true curiosity about what fills people with joy. I can tell you that I did not take the time to respond to him, but I did take the time, as my son has taught me through his education, not only in Plainfield but beyond, that we should get to know the perspectives of people before judging them. As a veteran, he's probably seen things and heard things that I would never be able to imagine. And a state and federal system that does not properly support the toll that it takes on humans' mental health and the future state. As someone who works and lives in the same town, as far as I can tell from his public Facebook page, he may not have had the experience of regularly having someone challenge his views why normal is not the world's normal. I say this not as an excuse for his hurtful words, but as an example of how understanding the person could help us pinpoint how to use our town systems to create connection and foster learning. And finally, in order to continue to have generations be able to stay, move back, or move into Plainfield, we need to support systems and budgets that allow current and future residents to choose Plainfield as I have. We all want the future of Plainfield to be as bright and steady in its past and present as have been the education budget is critical to this aspiration. The school budgets of the past have been able to grow and meet the needs of all students because our public school system should be a place where all students have equal access to knowledge and opportunity. No matter their economic status, geographic location within the town, ability levels, etc., all kids deserve to know that they are safe, being supported within our public school system and accepted. This is a value which I am very proud and I imagine every resident of Plainfield is. To know that the children we raise here, the children who call Plainfield home, have a public school system that cares for, supports, and helps them grow as students and people. It is truly special, and I believe it is the core to the town's identity. We raise good kids here and always have, and that's no accident. We have parents and guardians who are doing their best to do well by their kids and have a system that supports them in doing that. The schools we offer these children and families are critical to who Plainfield's children grow up to be. I chose to make Plainfield my home because I believe in the town's past, present, and future. We have the ability to continue and improve upon systems that support our residents and children in thoughtful, forward-looking ways and make them secure and reflective of our values. I believe that with our systems, particularly these budgets, we have an ability to balance the Plainfield that we all know, love, and care for today with the needs of the future. So given that home valuations and the history of the mill rate, this year may not be the year for the size increase that we had originally proposed. But I'm asking that we all take a moment to think about how we continue to build on the promises that the residents of Plainfield the past residents have made to us. How do we honor these promises, the ones that brought us all here, and hopes and security promises for the next generation of Plainfield residents? As I consider this, I'm thinking about the 1,900 Plainfield high schoolers who will graduate in the next 4 years and weigh whether or not they see their own futures here. Since the pandemic made working from home much more common, how do we attract people like me who want to come here when they don't need to live near Boston, Hartford, or Providence? How do we do right by the people who are already here, the veterans, senior citizens, people of color, high income, low income, highly educated, undereducated, those with disabilities and different abilities, talented teachers and administrators, small business owners, professionals, and people who have lived here for generations? What do we owe to all of us, and how can we say yes in the future to protecting a small, down-to-earth, and interconnected and familiar place? Again, I am voting yes next week because I am afraid. I am afraid that I have to have more cut from the budget if we vote no. The budget that has been presented to us is not sufficient to realize our hopes for the future of Plainfield, but we need to approve it in order to have any shot, however limited, at meeting the needs of Plainfield's present. I hope that when the education budget comes back to this body, or we vote on a different one tonight, we imagine, hope, dream, and think about Plainfield's future as much as we think about the past and the present. Let's vote and participate in discussions in a way that makes us proud of the Plainfield of the future, and as we are the Plainfield we know and love today.
Good evening. My name is Carletta Stardens. I am an unpaid elected official on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I am also a paid contractor. I teach yoga at the Recreation Department. But some of you may know me as the loud woman in the back of the room who makes the motions at town meetings. But unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the town meeting on June 3rd because of work obligation. Absentee balloting is not allowed for town meeting votes, which means I will not be allowed to vote on this budget on Monday because I have a work obligation. I cannot physically get here. Absentee balloting is not allowed. I agree with the first speaker who said the space should be larger and the voting window should be bigger, since I will not be here to make motions. I would hope that someone who is in attendance on the 3rd makes a motion that we vote by paper ballot. If you do not make that motion, then it's voice vote or raising your hand. So please make a motion to vote by paper ballot. Also to make a motion that voting begin as soon as possible, and anyone who's in line by a certain time be allowed to vote. So set that voting window so that if you have a friend who's racing home from work and they're able to come here to vote that night, that they are able to do so. But once again, it's a town meeting. Someone needs to be in the back with a loud voice making the motion that everyone who is in line is allowed to vote and give a window of opportunity. By charter, our failed budget, because there was 5% voter turnout, it does not create automatic referendum. Referendum would mean that people could absentee ballot. It means people wouldn't have to show up in a hot town hall room and wait for voting to begin. They could vote at their leisure between noon and 8 p.m. But because of the nature of the charter, that's not possible. Voter turnout had to be 25%. And for any of you who follow any elections we have, municipal elections barely get 25%. The state elections get about 50%, and even presidential only gets about 65%. So when we're talking about voter thresholds for important things, we have to keep in mind how we're communicating to people. When we look at our modes of communication, social media is huge. As chairman of Planning and Zoning, I've asked that my agendas, meeting minutes, and notices be put on the town Facebook page. I've been told it's not legally required. In my opinion, what's legally required is what's minimally required. And I think we should do more, especially when Facebook is free. And as soon as the town posted on their own Facebook page, there are residents groups with over 10,000 members who will like and share and comment. And I would say to the Facebook commenters, your comments on Facebook don't count until they're said in this microphone. So if you have a comment to say to this board, it needs to be said in this microphone. Because Facebook is not a public forum under state statute. Only this meeting is. And while you can talk to your friends and your family and your neighbors and even talk to board members, as board members, we're restricted to what you say at the public hearing, because otherwise it's ex parte communication. It is not allowed to be considered. So it's really important that if you're here tonight, whether you agree or disagree, whatever you may have to say about this budget, it's important you say it in this microphone to your elected officials. And I am so pleased to see the amount of elected officials before us today, especially because the Board of Finance and Board of Education are unpaid volunteers. There is misinformation out there that they are getting paid to do this. They are not. They take this abuse for free, as do I. So it's very important that we're communicating to the public. If we have a 5% voter turnout, that is our fault. That is our fault for not communicating to the public the necessary information and the process. I'd be happy to join forces with anyone to hold public information sessions of how our government works, because I believe in good government. I believe in roads, I believe in public safety, I believe in public education. If I were able to vote on Monday, my vote would be yes to all three budgets. And whether that is a 0.11 or a 0, whatever you should decide, I will be a yes vote because I care about those three things. But we also have to think about the past, present, and future. Last year, we had a significant mill increase. However, it was not a tax increase, and many people misunderstood that. There were a lot of people who took a big hit last year, and that's why they're saying no this year, because they seriously cannot pay a penny more because of what they had to do last year. So it's important to also consider what happened last year when considering what happens this year, because the voters remember what happened last year. When we're talking about short-term versus long-term goals and recurring revenue and recurring expenses, a previous speaker mentioned a cell phone tower. If we have someone willing to purchase a cell phone tower from us for $660,000, then I would think that they understand the value of it. Budget vote on June 3rd, but there is already a town meeting scheduled on June 5th to vote on selling that cell phone tower, and I have not seen information sessions or public hearings on that topic. Also listed on that question on the June 5th is that the $660,000 be allocated to Lions Park. In my humble opinion, we have needs in this world and we have wants. For me, the needs are roads, public safety, and public education. A park is a want. So if we are asking our public safety, our roads, and our education to cut almost $1 million, then why are we sending almost $1 million into a park? It was my understanding the park was being paid with grant money, and this town question on June 5th makes it seem like we are selling town assets to fund a park. I would rather fund public safety, education, and roads. I would ask everyone in the meeting here today to review the municipal calendar. Unfortunately, the meeting minutes, agendas, and schedule are not posted on Facebook. We need to meet you where you are. I will continue to advocate to post that information. I will be posting it on my own page and on my public pages to help get the word around. But on the municipal calendar is where you can find all meeting agendas, meeting minutes, as well as the town meeting vote question on June 5th. There are also $550,000 in restricted funds that are being asked to vote on June 5th, with another note to allocate that to Lions Park. And I just question the prudence, the fiscal conservatism of allocating over $1 million of money to a park when we're talking about cutting public education, public safety, and roads. I believe in good government. I want to fund good government, but we got to take care of the needs first, and we have to find the balance between the people who are really pinching the pennies and the Class A education that we want to give people. And I want that too. And that's why I'm here on a Tuesday night after attending a funeral, because I care and I want all of you to just listen to the public. And for those of you in the public, please step up to the microphone, whether you agree or disagree, so that you can have your questions answered, so that information can get out there, because it needs to be said in this microphone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Owen Pothier. I am a junior at Plainfield High School, and I would like to...
Excuse me. This is for adults, voting adults, please, for tonight.
Do you have something?
How old are you?
Are you 18?
Give it the line to Rosalie now.
Sorry. My name is Michelle Beauregard. I have lived in this town for 55 years. I have raised my children here, and I am a proud educator here. And I'm going to read this for my friend Owen Pothier, who is a junior at PHS. I have to read this right, so give me a moment. Oh man. I would strongly urge the Board of Finance to preserve the original budget, proposed budget. Neither the Board of Ed nor the town requested an unreasonable amount, especially when considering inflation. I know what a lot of people are considering when they vote is how is this going to impact their taxes. While this is definitely a rational thing to consider when voting, it is not the only factor that should go into your decision. What I'm asking you to consider is the future of not only your kids and grandkids, but the town you all live in. Of course, a well-funded public education can greatly benefit the lives of the students, but it also brings workers back to the town. Striking down a reasonable budget leaves a bad taste in the mouth of graduates and does not bring workers back to the town. What we should be doing is incentivizing people to come back, not to discourage it. Every year, we send off 100 kids to college and the workforce. They are all people who could settle down in Plainfield. If we make the right decision, no matter what you decide, you will see the consequences. Whether it is a minimal tax rate or a crippled ghost town, that is your choice. Thank you.
Hi, Scott Charlwood, 35 Sterling Road, Worcester. I've spoken at many Board of Finance meetings in the past, so I'm not going to sit here and go over everything which I've gone through earlier. As I've said, people look at me, the numbers I post on Facebook are the numbers I'm taking straight out of the BOE budget, all right? Enrollment being down and everything, that's all coming straight from their budgets. I'm not making stuff up. What happens, so I'm a businessman. I run $50 to $100 million budgets, just like the superintendent has to, so I understand numbers. You can't keep adding. Just as in my business, when my revenue goes down, I can't keep adding. You have to look at things that are duplicates. Places where you can cut. As my father used to say, sometimes there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. I would look at the budget right now, and I'm asking the superintendent and for Kevin, the first selectman, to sit there and get together. You have things like IT. Kevin's going to go and hire a $110,000 IT director. The school system has an IT staff of 8. I work for a company that has the same amount of employees as the school system. We run very sophisticated robotic software, warehouse management systems, EDI, ASNs, you name it, we do everything, plus email, plus everything else. We have a staff of an IT director and 4 employees. You have an IT director and 7 employees. Kevin does not need to hire an IT person. Those should be shared services. These are the things that we have to start looking at as a town. The town and the school has to get on the same page. Finance. Is there a way to put some finance together? I'm going to go back 5 years, but these are some of the things that I've brought up in the past. Both the town and the schools were looking for new finance software. What do? They both buy separate softwares. Why would you not buy the same software? Again, not to go back 5 years, but these are the things that I've been battling for a long time in this town. I trust that you can do a lot of things, Superintendent, and we will have our one-on-one meeting, I promise. But I need you and Kevin to get on the same page, and then get the boards on the same page. You two are the leaders, and we need to consolidate as much as we can. And I'm not saying consolidate schools and break them down. I'm talking about look at all your services together and consolidate. That's what you do in the business world. I just had to lay off a manager and a supervisor. Did I want to? No. But we had duplication in certain places, and that's what we did. So if you take like an IT position, it takes Kevin's 110, and whether you do something in upwards of finance or whatever, or any other position, you take that $300,000, you can start adding to the steps of contracts of teachers. That's how you do it. Do you really need to hire a dean of students after we laid off a principal, an assistant principal last year? Do you have to hire the facilities manager this year, or can you wait another year? If you do that, that saves approximately, from what I was told by the numbers, $190,000. That's $190,000 that you can use for other things. You can use that to support your teachers. You can use that to support your paras. As I've said in meetings before, my wife is a para in this town for 24 years. She loves it. I've been trying to get her to quit or retire, to be honest with you, because there's a lack of respect for her. I've been begging her to please quit, but she loves these children so much that she won't do it. This was a note that actually she was given by one of her students last Friday, and now I understand why she stays in the school system. I see it when we go to Cumberland Farms, when we go to Big Y. These kids run up to my wife, they hug her. Mrs. Charlotte, it's so good to see you on the weekend. But this was the note. This is first grade. Mrs. Charlotte is so nice. She is so kind. She likes to make up songs with me. She's funny. She's happy. Mrs. Charlotte plays games with me. She is the best teacher ever. Oh, and you too, Mrs. Parker. This is why my wife does it, okay? And I get it, money's tight. But money is tight for everybody. And this is why I have to ask, again, the Board of Education in this town to look at consolidating as many things as you possibly can, so you have the proper money to function. You can pay the teachers more, because for me, this is not cutting teachers, paying teachers less, paying paras less. This is about though making the right decisions and doing the right thing by the taxpayers, your teachers, and your paras. Thank you.
My name's Rowan Bragg. I've been in Plainfield 40 years, Canterbury 18 years. I served in Vietnam, and I am a senior taxpayer. I'm a IT supervisor for one of the largest supermarket chains on the East Coast. And they just eliminated my job and 100 others. And they consolidated their IT department into an outsourced company. So I have to agree somewhat with Scott. If we really sit down and look at the budgets, trust me, I made multi-million-dollar budgets for that company, and I knew we had to hide money and we had to jockey things around. So I know it can be done. It just takes dedicated time to sit down line by line, and like you said, consolidate all the schools, eliminate the duplication. That's what the company I work for did. And you need to take a real close look at the town of Plainfield. The majority of your taxpayers are over 65, living on a fixed income. So when you say $55 isn't much, I can just for you, it is. It's a lot to somebody that's living on a fixed income. So I asked the board to, at a minimum, keep the school budget where you can reduce it. But I can't. If you look at the state of Connecticut, Pratt & Whitney just laid off, and not Pratt & Whitney, Sikorsky just laid off their entire IT department, 500 employees looking for a job. We didn't do that in Plainfield. We didn't lay off 500 people. We didn't lay off 100 people like we did in the company I worked for. So we really need to take a look at who's paying the taxes, giving the kids the right education. And I hate to tell you this, but I deal with young people all the time. Half of them can't count, can't read. And that has nothing to do with the teachers. That has to do with the parents. All begins at home. Thank you.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, there was a gentleman who approached me who isn't good at public speaking and asked that I make his comment on his behalf. So David Allen from Moosup, he is a retiree on a fixed income. He wants to see education money go to books, student programs, building maintenance, custodians, and teachers. He does not want to see more administrative positions, and it's really supporting needs versus wants. I also just had one additional comment for myself, Carla Destardens, Plainfield Pike. When we're talking about recurring revenue versus expenses, as I indicated when I stepped up first, I am a yoga teacher with recreation. I've been so for 22 years. It is a revenue generating program. I was informed by the town hall last week that they're changing contractor status to town employee. So I will no longer be able to teach a revenue generating program for the recreation department because as a town employee I would be disqualified from serving on the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is my elected duty and I will not give that up. So unfortunately I will be teaching yoga in other towns because I cannot change my status to town employee. I also own my own business. I work outside business hours. So a contractor status is the correct and valid status for my job classification. I also work in human resources, so I'm familiar with that. Also, I would question the wisdom of changing contractors to employees because of the additional cost. So when we're talking about recurring expenses, the recurring expenses of unemployment, workers' comp, Social Security, and Medicare, when you have employees, if a class is canceled, are they now entitled to unemployment? As you remember with the pandemic, we were shut down for a year. As a contractor, that means I did not get paid for a year. But if I were a town employee, would I have then been able to collect unemployment for those canceled classes? In fitness classes, we sometimes injure ourselves. As a contractor, that's my own risk and liability. As a town employee, would I then be able to file workers' comp claims? Those are all long-term expenses that may not be considered with short-term decisions. So I just wanted to add to, when we are making decisions, we need to look at short-term versus long-term, recurring expenses and revenue, and make sure that those balance out. And with permission, Mr. Chair, if there are other people in the audience who have a fear of speaking, may I take their comment, their name, their address, and bring that to you?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Meet me in the back if you have a comment, if you're afraid to